Sometimes I feel like I want to fly without no wings. I elevate inside my mind.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Barkoff. I am the Sober Cold Bear, and welcome to another episode of the Sober Cold Bear podcast. I'm glad that you're here. So, Carrie Cariello, good to see you. Thank you for being here today, and very nice to meet you. I'm glad we're finally able to connect.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. You have a great story, and I'm happy to be a part of it just for this short time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit about you in a second, but just to kind of orient everybody with my general spiel. The Sober Cold Bear podcast is a place to come for great content and great topics that you'll hear today that Carrie and I are talking about. We're going to be talking about her books and her most recent book that she's just about to release, which I'm super excited to talk about today and learn about. We're going to talk about our kids. We're going to talk about baseball because we share some things around that. But the Sober Cold Bear podcast is a place to come where you want to learn about really cool subjects like, great people like Carrie. We do cover a lot of topics like sobriety and addiction and depression. We also cover things like if you're a parent and you're struggling with a child with some type of medical addiction or what have you, how do you get help? And there's all sorts of other things we go through. I've had marriage family therapists on, I've had doctors on, I've even have professional athletes on, but this is not the place to go if you want to get sober. There are ways to do that. There are lots of great programs available to you, readily available, including, AA, 12-step programs. If you got to go to rehab, I always kid, I probably should have gone to rehab, but I did work the 12 steps. I do go to meetings and I have a sponsor. So it starts with the 3 words, I need help. And that's how it works. So again, Carrie, thanks for being here. Carrie lives in southern New Hampshire with her husband, Joe, and their 5 children. Her second child, Jack, is on the autism spectrum. They have a son named Charlie, who is a baseball player like my son, Jonah. Carrie is a regular contributor to the Huffington Post Autism Spectrum News and has been published in several parenting magazines. She's a frequent speaker and blogger as well. And you can find her at carriecariello.com. You have 3 books that you've come out with. One that is called What Color is Monday and Autism Out Loud. And your very newly published book, which is about to come out, I guess, called Marriage, I Love You for Now, is just about to come out. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. It is great to be here. I also have another memoir that's called Half My Sky.
Oh my goodness.
That one's no worries. That one's actually one of my favorites. It's a series of letters to everybody in my world, including all of my kids and my husband and my mother-in-law. And it's just a real personal look at kind of our family and our life.
Tell me how you got into writing, how you and where you started and kind of which one you published first. And let's maybe start there.
Yeah, so like you said, we have 5 kids. They don't even live here anymore, Matt. 4 are in college. So I only have my 17-year-old at home, which is like wild. But my son Jack was diagnosed with autism when he was 18 months old. And back then, I didn't know a single person who had autism. My only experience with it was from the movie Rain Man that I had watched with my mother one Sunday afternoon. And, we were just navigating this journey without any kind of formula or any kind of like
Mm.
plan, so to speak. And I've always been a reader. I've always, since I was a kid, read at least a book a week and always sort of dabbled in writing. But I had a very, very clear instance when we had an experience at a hotel that inspired me to move forward and really begin sharing our journey. And at the time, Jack was 8 years old and he was terrified of dogs, absolutely. I worried he would run in front of a truck to get away from a dog. I truly worried, like, can an 8-year-old have a stroke from the stress of and being so frantic around animals? And my husband and I had taken all 5 kids to this water park up in northern New Hampshire called the Red Jacket. I don't even know if it's still open. And afterwards, we went to this hotel. And we walked into the hotel lobby, and my husband went out to get our bags, and the first thing we saw was a man and his dog. It turns out it was a pet-friendly hotel, we didn't realize, and Jack started to kinda, like, really get deregulated, and at that age, his deregulation looked like he would tend to circle rooms and kinda trace the walls with his fingers and flap and sort of hop in place. And
Mm.
so, we always say autism is a family diagnosis, and all of my kids interpret it and interface with it a little bit differently. But at that point in time, in this hotel lobby, they were like, there's a dog here. We have to go. You got to get Jack. You got to get Jack. So everybody was like really ramped up.
Well,
And I was like, well, let's just wait because he wasn't running out of the room, which that would have been his reaction typically. He was in the space with this man and this dog. And I went over to the man and I said, it's my son. He has autism. He's always been very afraid of dogs. Like, let's just sort of see how this unfolds. And what happened next is something I, to this day, will never forget. And we're talking about, 13 years ago. The man sat on the floor next to his dog and he just started to call out to Jack really gently. Jack, this is Gracie. The dog's name was Gracie. Gracie and I are waiting for you. We're waiting for you.
wow.
And Jack just started to circle closer and closer. And he reached out and he pet the man's hair. And then for the first time in his life, he pet the dog.
Holy shit, what a powerful moment. I just got, like,
Yeah.
chills. Like,
I get
it's so
chills.
good. Oh my god, it's
I've
so
told it
crazy, like,
so many times and I still get chills. And I
oh my
just think
gosh.
it was so. And Matt, at this moment, I'm looking at my dog over in the corner because we were able to get a dog. We waited a couple of years, but I remember riding up in the elevator with all of the kids after this very, very raw, vulnerable experience with a stranger, thinking I want to tell our story and I wanted to
Wow.
tell it through that lens. And that's what I work really hard across all my social media to do is whenever I have the opportunity to remind people that people are good.
Uh-huh.
And I'm about to do a reel in a little bit just about that very thing that people are good. So what's beautiful about that is when you decide to shift the lens in what content you post, you shift your own personal lens at the same time. And now, that's just neuroscience. I'm just always looking for teeny tiny little things that remind me how good humanity is.
You know, first of all, I appreciate you kinda opening up with this journey, this as to how this particular individual, I don't know if you still have a relationship with this person or not. I hope somewhere, somehow you guys are still connected, 'cause that's a pretty powerful moment that, frankly, changed the trajectory of your son's path towards discovering something completely new, and also, changed your journey and your husband's journey and your kids' journey, and it just completely it's funny, we always kind of are in these situations where we never know what the outcome is going to be, or frankly, what the outcome is going to actually do. I always try and err on the side of, like, am I doing something right now that's gonna, like, be impactful and helpful for people? Because you may not never you may never know the outcome of whatever it is that you're doing right now. It may show itself way, way down the road, long after you're, somewhere else, right? And so what a powerful message that it completely changed your son's direction. It completely opened up a new area of discovery for him, frankly, trust. It got him to completely what an incredible growth opportunity that it was provided for all of you.
Yep. It was beautiful. And like I said, a couple years later, we wound up getting we have a little dog, Wolfie, and he's half Shih Tzu, half Bichon. And what's fascinating, I don't know if you have pets. This is
We
our
do.
only family pet. Wolfie's getting very old and he has cancer in one leg. And I just said this to Wolfie today. I never pictured watching him get old. But he's what a hole in our family we wouldn't have even known we had. And so in some regards, I trace this beautiful experience we've had with this dog way back to a lobby in North Conway, New Hampshire. And I wish I could tell you I stayed in touch with that gentleman, I was so kind of overwhelmed by everything at the moment that I never even interacted and got his name. But I'll tell you this, there's a chapter about him and Gracie in the book What Color is Monday? Because I thought you just have to, even if you don't know exactly who you're writing about, it's important to share those kinds of things.
I think eventually, whether it's, later today or in 10 years, you will get connected somehow back with this individual that changed your life. But man, what an incredible story to tell. Let let's talk a little bit more about your son and about the book that's kind of based off of you and your family's experience around autism. I have a number of friends and family that have kids that are autistic.
Mm.
One of my very closest friends here in town, his son is high functioning autistic. He's one of the most brilliant kids I know. And we actually talk about, his autism a couple of times a week because we go to coffee pretty much, 3 or 4 days a week. So tell me a little bit about your son, Jack, and kind of the basis of the book, how it came about, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so Jack is 21 now, which is he's about to be 22. We were talking earlier, Matt, about our sons who pitch
Yep.
in baseball. What's fascinating about my family is I have 5 kids, and Jack is nearly 6'6". So
Holy shit.
we brought him. So my son Charlie is the pitcher in Maine.
Uh-huh.
We brought him to one of Charlie's games last year, and Jack, even at 2021, has still struggles with social norms, and so of course you understand this. He walked right up to the bullpen, was like lurching, looming over the bullpen. And all the players said, "Who is that?" The coach was like, "Who is that?" He's a
Bitch.
big guy. Can he pitch? And Charlie said, "That is my brother. And if I had been born with that size, I wouldn't even know your name because I would be in the major leagues, right?" So sometimes you think I always say autism's grief. I'd be curious what your friend has to say about this. It doesn't ever go away. Even 21 plus years in, I still experience it. And I liken it to heartbreak by 1,000 paper cuts. It's just these little stings that you feel, and they don't stop you in your tracks. They don't interrupt your day. You just kind of absorb them. I continue to experience that for Jack on 2 levels. One, when I see kids his age moving with ease, laughing with a bunch of girls, hanging with peers, and I feel it on behalf of Charlie. So Jack is just about 6'6", size 15 shoe,
Oh my goodness.
really doesn't have the muscle tone to sort of pick up this paper towel. you know? And that's sort of a question of chicken or egg. The population with autism tends to have no muscle tone. Is it because they don't like to move? Or is it because they have no muscle tone that they don't like to move? But anyway, you just think 2 things. And I don't let myself land here too often, but what could he have been if autism didn't control his body the way it does, and his brain to some degree, but a lot of his body? Or what could Charlie have been if he had gotten Jack's body? But that, at the end of the day is just what life hands you. And Charlie certainly making the most of his 6'3" stature. He's not like a shorty by any means. So, but to give you an idea of Jack, he is currently in a supported community. He takes
Okay.
college classes. So he doesn't live here anymore. I talk to a lot of young moms behind me on this journey who say things like, "He has to live with me forever. Only I can do his medication. She'll only eat the pizza that I make." And I think there's a real codependency that can develop when you're raising a special needs child. And I talk a lot about that in my upcoming book about marriage because Joe and I have different, obviously, relationships with all of our kids and with autism. But we always knew that on some level, Jack needed to launch, that at some
100%.
point, our home had stopped becoming a learning environment for him. We had taken him as far as we could bring him.
Tell tell me, I think that's a really good subject to kind of go down right now, a topic, I guess. I cover when I talk to a lot of folks about recovery and addiction, I often talk about codependency and just how much of a central issue it is. I've gotten into dialogues with individuals that don't think codependency is a big thing in recovery and addiction. I absolutely do. You get a parent who has a child that's struggling with addiction, and they'll do anything to save them. They'll pull them out of rehab early, you know. I've known parents who have lost children to addiction because they coddled them and because they maybe baby is a little bit of a strong term, but like really tried to control the outcome of who they are. And you're right, you know, there has to be at some point where you just say, I don't have all control anymore. I can't make every pizza that he or she is going to eat, or I can't put the carrots and the peas and the food in, because like I talk to my friend all the time about how he eats and how his son initially would need certain, you know, I guess there was a certain order that they put the food in order for him to eat. And they just stopped doing that. And it took a while, but they eventually broke that habit. So I think kind of this whole element of codependency is oftentimes something I hear about across a lot of different subjects. How did you and your husband parent together? Did you oftentimes find yourself on the same page, or did you oftentimes find yourself, because I mean, look, you guys have been married for a long time, you have 5 kids, you guys clearly have a strong marriage. So like, where did you find yourself kind of going in different directions, and how did you handle that?
I mean, sometimes I don't even think we're in the same book, Matt. But yes, we have been married 27 years, you know. I mean, that's a whole other story in and of itself, but I can parse it down to this. Kids like my son Jack can only match the highest regulatory system in the room. So if you come in at a 12, Jack's going to be at a 12. Well, and I would say this if my husband Joe was standing right behind me here. My husband Joe runs at a 12. He's Italian. He's a big guy. He gestures. He loves everything about life. He wants you to love everything that he loves about life. And for so many years, I called myself MOM, Mom, Manager of Moods. And I was always, I want to get a t shirt with that on it.
That's go that
Manager of Moods.
This quote is going on Instagram for sure. MOM,
Let's go
manager
viral.
of moods.
Manager of moods. So I managed them. I managed Joe. I managed Jack. I managed everybody's moods all the time. And it was so exhausting. And I remember it is so specific as the dog in the lobby. There's just certain, like, sort of points in your journey that will never soften in your mind, right? We were at a middle school concert. It was my oldest son's birthday. We were going to watch this. It was a talent show. We were going to watch this talent show, and then we were going out for dinner after. And Jack did not want to be there. And Jack was 15 at the time. And when Jack didn't want to be somewhere, he did not hide it at all. At one point in the middle of this talent show, like some girl was warbling the Titanic song that they all sang up on stage. Jack stood up, looked right at my husband Joe, his father, and said, F you, and
Wow.
swore at him.
Oh boy.
And Joe got up and he steered him out of there so firmly, like a couple chairs kind of clattered to the floor. Now, Carrie 1.0 would have been up right after them. Okay, well, he didn't mean it. Would Jack say you're sorry? And just like massaging the situation. And I remember thinking, I cannot be their safety net anymore. I cannot be the safety net that they land on. They have got to figure this out. And I remember sitting back in my chair for reasons I cannot explain to this day. The music teacher also had a solo in this talent show. And I remember thinking, how much longer can this thing go on? And when I walked out, it was springtime like this. It was drizzling cold, and Joe and Jack were embracing underneath one of the like street lamps of the parking lot. And it's not always easy to stay out of their way. I still fight that urge to meddle and to be in between them. But I will tell you, nothing but goodness has come out of them forging their way together.
So because of that, what you're saying is like that was another kind of turning point in their relationships in terms of how they learn to work with each other. You're right. I mean, you eventually have to take, you know, what is it? The little swimming booties, the things that
Yeah.
you wear. You got to take those
Floaties.
off, right? Your floaties, you got to take them off, right? You got to just trust that like they're going to either get it or they're not. You have to, there's only so much you can do in your control. And eventually like one thing's going to happen or another thing's going to happen, but you can't manage it all. Otherwise you're going to go nuts. You're
Well,
just
it's
going to
not
go
good for your
crazy.
marriage. It's just not good for your marriage. This whole book about marriage is stuff that Joe and I have discovered that works along the way. I seek to normalize marriage counseling as best I can. We loved it. We went for like 4 years. I was sad when our counselor retired. I talk about a concept I call being married on purpose. So we do everything else in our lives on purpose. We do podcasts, we order pizza, we go to the gym, but you have to choose what it takes to be married on purpose. And, but yeah, I do think that stepping back, listen, my kids are older now. I don't have toddlers. They
How
know
old are
what
your
this.
children now? How old are they now? Start with the top, go all the way down.
So at this very moment, my oldest is 22, Jack is
Okay.
21, Charlie
Okay.
is 20, my
Okay.
daughter's 18,
Okay.
and then the youngest guy upstairs just got home from school. Henry is 17.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
and Henry came out as gay about 3 years ago, and I will say that
Your
that ex
youngest?
my youngest,
Okay.
that experience is almost lonelier as a mother to parent than autism, because autism, like you said, you have a friend, and you mentioned earlier your wife is very involved. I don't know any other mother in our town who's raising a son like mine, and he's really delightful and just an exceptional human being. But again, my husband and I are finding ourselves on uneven footing when it comes to piercings and, bleaching hair and just all that stuff that's sort of not, there's no manual for that either.
You know, I want to get back to that, but I do want to highlight that I did a little bit more research while you were talking, and it looks like you cover in this new book different parenting styles, strategies that you guys have worked on over the years to work together. You've got this thing called the 555 rule, which I want to ask you a question about in terms of, I guess you describe it as doing things well, and you continue to struggle to see eye to eye. Tell me about the five.
I hate to say came up with, but I thought of that for my own purposes about probably 4 years ago. So this may seem like a departure, but I'll get to it. When it comes to social reserves, right? I say my husband Joe is a circle and I'm a dot. And the difference between the two is a circle has never known a stranger. Oh, Matt invited us over for a barbecue. We barely know him, but we should go. Oh, my employees are all getting to, Joe's a dentist, so he has a team of people around him. Oh, but they're having a bowling night. We don't want to miss that. And I'm a dot. So I make my social choices very carefully because as much as I'm present online and I speak to groups, my social battery is not unlimited. So with that in mind, the 555 rule came out of a wedding invitation that somebody on Joe's team, a new employee invited us to her wedding on New Year's Eve a couple years ago. And I have college kids now, and they're home for such a short time at the holidays that I care about this person, but I wasn't particularly interested in spending New Year's Eve with them and their family. And I remember thinking, how can I put this to Joe? Joe's pretty logical, so he says. That comes out in the book too. He always says he's very logical, and I think he's the most emotional person I've met. But he likes things that are pragmatic and kind of distilled into granular pieces. So I remember saying to him, will saying no to this invitation matter in 5 minutes, 5 days, or 5 years?
That's a really
And
good one.
since
And
then,
this is
it's
the
been
555 rule.
yeah, 555 rule. It's
Right.
my benchmark for so many things in my life. Social invitations for sure, but also like Joe leaves his keys on the counter almost every day.
Right.
Just these little petty slights that we can make into much bigger things. Will this matter in 5 minutes, 5 days, and 5 years? And another thing, I really want to hear what you have to say about this because I am not sober. I do have alcohol, but I do love this premise that I believe came out of sobriety coaching, which is the HALT method. Are you
Hungry,
hungry,
angry,
angry,
lonely, and tired. I
tired?
use that on the daily.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
And is that bad? Is that like inappropriate for non-sober people to use your methods?
Well, no, I don't think it's a sobriety acronym at all.
Oh,
I think if you're hungry, can and you don't actually have that kind of that self-diagnosis of being hunger, you can get pissed off. You can be angry about something and not realize why. You can be lonely about something, your family's away and you could be on the road and tired. I mean, we get to a point every night where we just get tired and our our temperaments shorten. So,
absolutely.
no, it's certainly not something in sobriety. It's something that I hear about often, something I use when I work with others. I'm like, "Are you halted?" Like, I'm getting halted right now because I haven't eaten lunch yet. So, but yes, it's something that is should be used all the time. And by the way, like just because you drink doesn't necessarily mean that you are like, that you need to get sober. There's what something that we affirmly, describe as kind of normies. You come across as a person that is a normie. You probably again, I don't know how much you drink. It doesn't matter. But in the whole scheme of things, like the difference between alcoholism and an addict like myself versus a person like you that drinks is I used to drink to hide. I used to drink to and use drugs to not feel, to deal with my problem, to cover them, right?
Yeah.
And that's and the fundamental aspect, it's not about, and I'll read you something in a second that I wrote the other night, but it's not about the alcohol that's the problem. It's the person. It's what's going on in between those two ears.
So I'm endlessly curious about this.
Sure.
Brain wiring in general, because I have a son like Jack, and now Jack can drink alcohol, and there's not much like covered on that. I've heard the
Mm-hmm.
saying like I can have 1 to 2 drinks and be completely finished, and actually last night I had a drink and I wound up pouring it down the sink because I just was done with it. But my from what I've heard is like someone in your shoes would not be able to do that. Is that accurate?
I think I wouldn't necessarily think about it like from a drink perspective. I think sobriety is like showing up for life in general and kind of rebuilding self-trust in who you are. And for me, that's been a journey that has taken a lot of hard work, a lot of therapy, a lot of meetings, a lot of working with others to realize that. So my problem wasn't pouring a drink down the drain because I didn't wanna finish it. I did that and I was an addict. My problem was when things got really bad, I would go to the liquor store and buy a bottle of vodka and drink the whole thing
Mm,
because I didn't wanna deal with my shit, or I took my personality character defects into the workplace and caused problems and lost jobs or alienated myself or caused issues. So it's the character defects that we aren't in touch with that a 12-step program helps you work on
mm.
is, just realizing, yeah, I don't need this glass of wine anymore. I'm just going to pour it out. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. What I, as a person, have to be cautious of, there's a saying, how you do one thing is how you do anything. I am an incredibly habitual person, meaning what I do one day, I want to do it exactly the same way. Our brains are lazy. We love that rhythm. Whether and that applies to everything from I run every day, I tend to have the similar lunch every day, so I can easily build a habit around that
Sure.
evening cocktail. That's what I, as a person who chooses to still have it in my life, like, tries to be conscious of.
Sure. I think mental disorders, I have a lot of mental disorders. I have depression, I have anxiety, I have ADHD. I think ADHD is a common theme in autistic individuals. I'm pretty sure of that, right? I have a person I'm going to tell you about in a second that's connected to a friend of mine. I'm not going to say their name for the purposes of anonymity, but I think, and again, like I don't know what addiction in autistic individuals is like, or what alcohol does to an individual that has autism or how that changes their brain structure, but I would think that there's some real deep connections to how it changes the function of how a person deals with things that is autistic when they drink. And I'm curious, is that something that you've looked at? Is that something that you've talked to your son Jack about? How have you and your husband approached that? Since we happen to be talking about alcohol, I mean, it's funny. We always kind of get back. I always get back to alcohol somehow, but
Well, I
curious
think
your
it's
thoughts on that.
universal. It's a universal topic, and it's really interesting. So Jack turned 21 last year. He
Yeah.
was desperate. Okay, just to give you an idea of the context of our home. My husband and I drink. My husband loves bourbon. He's Italian. They made wine. It's a really, it's a part of his life in what I consider a healthy way. So our kids have seen us drink, but we've never been the kind of parents that drink with our kids. That's just never something that sat right with me. Like, oh, have your friends come over and everybody puts their keys in this spot and go party. Or my oldest son is a CrossFitter. He doesn't drink at all. So we never really, this didn't have to deal with it too much. When Jack turned 21, he wanted that milestone of tasting alcohol. And so often I'm conflicted because I talk about this duality that exists in kids like Jack, where there's their physical age, a 21-year-old, but emotionally, I would put him more at around 13. So, should a 13-year-old really have a substance in their body that's going to alter their temperament, their outlook, what have you? But on the other hand, he deserves the milestones that everybody else his age is enjoying. And I didn't want to take that from him. But in the weeks leading up to it, I talked to a couple people in my universe who I consider like really well versed in this. One is she's a parent coach, Shannon Earle, Earle. She's phenomenal. And
Okay.
he gave me some strategies to talk to Jack and keep everything open. But even she admitted there's very little research on what addiction rates could be like for somebody like Jack because Jack's diagnosed with autism. He also has severe debilitating. When people think of OCD, they just think he's washing his hands all the time, which, yes, he's doing. He struggles with racing, looping thoughts that he cannot quiet for himself. And I know what alcohol does for me. I can only imagine that could be a huge relief for someone like him to
Well,
just
alcohol is a
quiet it.
depressant, right? It slows the brain down. I don't know kind of all the medical aspects to it, and I'm certainly not a doctor, but I would think that if he does have racing thoughts, that probably the alcohol could maybe chill him out a little bit
Yeah.
or make him kind of think more calmly. And I don't know kind of what the correlation is with those with autism that have addiction challenges. I don't know what the stats are. It's certainly something I'm going to look up after this.
If you find something, I would love it. I would love to continue that because I can't I'm truly fascinated myself and I really can't discover anything meaningful that's been written about it.
I mean, there are studies out there that kind of talk about addiction and or autistic individuals and kind of the higher risks of, I guess, developing addiction,
Yeah.
substance use disorder, self-medication, sensory overloads, things like that. I will definitely look into this. There is probably studies out there that talk about substance use disorders as it relates to autism. There's even articles on Autism Speaks as well.
Hmm.
So, yeah, we should stay connected on this subject.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. So you and your husband have never been drunk in front of your kids? Have they seen you drink alcohol at all?
Oh, yeah, they've seen us drink for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Drunk?
Okay.
No, I can't say because I don't ever drink to get drunk. I mean, I would say at our 40th birthday party, my husband probably got drunk.
Well, my kids saw me drunk. They saw me intoxicated. They saw me go to bed at like 6:30 at night. They
Okay.
had to see some really, really tough things. I mean, there were times where I'd call my, son and he'd be like, "Dad, are you drinking? Are you drunk?" Like
Mm.
they could tell, right? So those are things that really impact a kid. And a big reason, besides for my own health, of course, which is the most important thing, that I got sober. I got sober for my family, for my marriage, for my kids, for my life, for my coworkers. And trust me, it has done amazing, incredible things in my life. I mean, I wouldn't have launched this podcast if I didn't get sober. I wouldn't have done other things in my life had I gotten sober. I wouldn't have launched a wellness company had I not gotten sober.
How
And
many
I'm
years has it been for you?
so I originally got sober in 2021 after a year of COVID and just drinking way too much, which was a big problem I think for everybody during COVID. So I originally got sober in like, January, February, March of 2021, got about 18 months through to close to 2 years, off and on through the middle of 2023. We adopted a dog, and the dog was tragically hit by a car in front of me, and that was a massive PTSD
Mm.
episode in August of 2023. So I had a really big relapse, and then I struggled over the span of like the next, probably 18, 19 months. And I'm now my most recent now I'm like almost 15 months sober. So, my journey started in 2021, and I just because I have a sobriety date, and on February 6th of 2025 is meaningless to me. What you learn from what you go through when you drink or you relapse or whatever you want to call it, I think they're all learning experiences. And I always coach people on that. Uh, so it's been a long journey, but I didn't really actually start dealing with a lot of my depression, a lot of my anxiety, and like a lot of the therapy stuff until like 2023. Like at that point, I really started like diving and deep into it. But I self-medicated for a very, very long time, and, I will tell you that, I know children's brains are still developing up through age of 25. So,
Yeah.
I would say, you know, that's still something that could be a slippery slope, and again, I'm not telling you how to parent at all. I'm just
No,
saying, like,
no.
21-year-old, they're still developing. I talk to my kids all the time about drugs and alcohol. They're very open with me. So, but it's a really fascinating topic to even go through. I want to talk a little bit about baseball for a second because we've talked a little bit about your marriage. I love you for now. I haven't had a chance to really talk about, what color is Monday. Maybe we'll have to do like a second episode to kind of
I'd
maybe
love
talk about.
that.
So I've actually had a couple of people on to go through second episodes. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about baseball because I
Before
would.
we do that, I just want to say
Yeah, yeah,
this one thing.
yeah.
We took Jack out for his birthday. He ordered a beer. Jack does
Okay.
what's called globalizing. So what one experience he applies it to every experience. If I could have taken a video of him sipping this beer and his face screwing up and he loves soda. He said, "It's not like soda at all." And that's
Oh,
it. He has zero interest. He said
oh,
it's
great.
very bitter.
That's great.
So for now, we say that a lot. For now, I can check that box. I said to him the other day, "Have you had a drink since your birthday?" He said, "No, that was so sour."
He sounds like an incredible human being. I mean, just all your kids do, and clearly you are as well as your husband Joe. I mean, you guys sound like incredible people. I'm glad we're now becoming friends.
Yes, I love this.
So, okay, I'm going to start with this because I've been thinking a lot about how we would approach the subject. Obviously, I didn't tell you in our little prep session or anything like that, but so much like, again, I'm not going to compare this to autism, but as parents, we understand kind of the different phases of parenting. And what I mean by that is when your children are born, they depend on you for everything. They depend on you to be changed, to be put to bed, to be clothed, to be fed. And then as they grow up, they come, more and more dependent. They still need you for those things to drive around, to do all those things. Once our children become older, we move from kind of like what I would describe as like a parenting role into more of like a life coach meets psychiatrist meets, best friend. And when it comes to baseball, that's kind of how I would describe our journey with our son Jonah. Curious your thoughts on kind of that analogy, and is that something that you kind of see as similar? Do you see it different? And then we'll kind of talk a little bit about our kids and kind of hear about how they got into their baseball journey.
Yeah, I love how you explain that. In our house, we call that untethering. And I remember, Jack specifically when he left for his community, he was texting me like 20 times a day. It was so disruptive. And the parent coach I mentioned earlier, she said, your frontal lobes are way too connected still. He's too, connected to you. And I'll never forget sitting in this very chair where I am now. I was writing a book, and she said, you have to move from a we to an I. And I remember making the symbol for W with my hands and saying we have to move from this to two I's. And the work that it took to do that for Jack. And so Charlie,
Give me
my base
give
was
me give me an example of that before we talk about Charlie, but give me an example of we to I.
we to I is often boundary driven, which a lot of parents don't care for. I heard a mom the other day say her daughter's in college. The second she calls me, I stop whatever meeting I'm in and I pick up that phone. That's my daughter, and that sounds good. It sounds like, wow, you're a great mom. Not really. It's okay for kids to wait. That was a lesson for me too. It's okay, like we said to Jack, I will check my texts at 3 o'clock every afternoon. If you have something to say, that's the time I'll respond to. Obviously, if it's an emergency, he knows how to get in touch with us otherwise. But for Jack, it was letting him know he was becoming a young man and that young men perform this way. They behave this way. They don't call every single day home, and starting to give him the tools to know he can be an independent young adult because that is the goal. It showed up for me with my other kids too, and it's sort of like kind of coincidence. It showed up for me with Charlie. I was very attached to Charlie before he left. When he was a junior in high school, he had a difficult breakup, and he really spiraled in a way no one ever expected. Anyone who meets Charlie, he's the circle. He's never met a stranger. He's everybody's guy. He can talk about anything. He's affable and funny and charismatic. And when he did this deep dive, it terrified us. My husband was sleeping in his bedroom at night,
Oh,
for
wow.
fear self-harm. And I don't like to throw out PTSD because I've never served in the military, but I will say probably until about 6 months ago, I had some form of that where I was on eggshells, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And for his first year of college, Charlie and I would talk almost every day, and I loved
Yeah,
it.
that's
He's funny, he's interesting, but looking back, I thought this has been a disservice. And so when he went away this first semester, sophomore year, he said, I'm trying not to call you every day. And it was
you know,
hard.
I'll bet. I can relate. My son, there's a great book, by the way. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's a good read. It's called Drop the Rock.
No, I'll
You
write
heard of
that
it?
down.
Good
No.
book. It's basically removing character defects. It's a book on sobriety. It's basically around steps 6 and 7, but it really just talks about if you think about you're holding a really heavy rock, what do you need to do to kind of like get rid of all that weight so that you can move forward and keep walking without breaking your back? Drop the rock. Or you're hanging from a cliff and you have this
Mm.
big boulder in your right hand and you're hanging from the cliff on your left hand. What do you do to climb up and save yourself from falling, you know, to the ground, right? You got to drop the rock, pull yourself up with both hands and move forward. So, that's been something that my wife and I have worked very hard with our son Jonah, who's a left-handed pitcher in the D1 level. He's at University of Oregon. He just went through something pretty strenuous and stressful that was stressful for all of us. He actually had Tommy John surgery as a freshman in college. He
Mm.
got back. It took him a year to get back. He had a great fall. And a week before the season started, I'm not kidding, they were doing PIPs, which is like the bunt, exercises to like, and anyways, he dislocated his left ankle and had to get rushed to the hospital and they had to pop it back into place. And now he's on the injured reserve again. So, and we were really worried about his depression and we were texting him and calling him just to make sure that you're doing okay. So yeah, that it's nerve wracking. I mean, the amount of challenges that these kids go through around injury and just the psychological aspect of any life event, especially as it relates to everything, whether it's directly by baseball or other, I mean, we're always worried. It's like,
Yeah.
what point do you just kind of say, I gotta let it go?
Well, I'll tell you, so Charlie's D3 and my daughter's D1. So that's an interesting vibration in this house. Notre Dame buys you everything. Notre Dame, she gets she jackets and suitcases and this and that. And Charlie's experience is not quite the same. But I'm still learning to navigate that also. Also, on top of that, as I can tell from you, Matt, I truly enjoy my kids. I love a 20-minute catch up. With Charlie and I have this banter going back and forth where we each share a snippet of like really bad custom, like we called it like why are people so weird? So he texted under this title, Why Are People So Weird? He said a woman, he was going across the crosswalk and the woman in her car waved him on. And then she got out of her car to yell at him for not walking fast enough.
Oh my God.
Why are people so weird? I I mentioned my dog is older. He only has a few teeth, so I get shredded turkey for him at the deli. And at our grocery store, the woman handed me the turkey and it was sliced. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'll pay for both, but I just need shredded because that's what my dog can eat. And she just turned around and started pulling it apart with her hands. I was like, well, I can see you doing that. You know? So this is the stuff Charlie and I trade back and forth. I have to remind myself he has got to endure life on his own.
Life on life's terms. That's
Yes.
a real dynamic thing. Is there a quick story that you can give on Charlie and of a really cool win or a really cool time that you can think back to? I'll share one after you share with
Yeah.
baseball specifically.
Yours will probably be better. I always say we laugh because Charlie tried out for baseball in COVID. He really never played much before. And he showed up in his father's cleats and in sweatpants. And the coach said, you're a hazard to yourself. You're going to hurt yourself. They didn't make any cuts. And so Charlie got on the team and he was kind of small at the time.
Never did travel ball, never did little league.
Nothing, not until high school.
Oh my goodness, that's actually unique. That's
He
cool.
did do rec ball. Let me back up and say he did do rec ball, but kind of phased out of it and wasn't super interested, and then showed up and just decided he had a knack to pitch. By the way, Matt, very few people understand what it's like to watch your son or daughter pitch. I
It's
sometimes
fucking
have to
nerve
leave.
wracking.
I have to leave. I
I
was
have to
talking
go
to
for a walk.
I
Oh
go to the
yeah.
concession stand and I eat, or I talk to the concession people.
I mean, all of my friends are, my son's teammates' parents.
Yeah.
There's this understanding that you just have. I mean, especially like some of these parents that I'm friends with, these kids are going to be like first, second, third round draft picks this summer in the draft, right? These are legitimate stud, baseball players that will be at the major league level. I don't know if you know the stats to get to the major leagues, but it's like really tiny. I mean, there's about 450,000 baseball kids that graduate from high school every year. Only 10,000 make it into the D1 level, probably another 15 to 20,000 the D2, D3 level. And
It's
of that,
elite.
it's very elite. Very short stat is of 450,000 kids that graduate every year, only 60 will make it to the major league level. Just crazy.
Incredible. It's
You know,
incredible. And
you
the
know, it
pressure every pitch, that that that's what we're trying to move the needle a little bit with Charlie, that every outing isn't gonna make or break you at a D3 school. I have 2 very fast stories to share. One, this past weekend, we couldn't be there. Charlie was playing in Connecticut, and it was a doubleheader, and we're watching on the program that the school puts out. We're sitting at a movie called Project Hail Mary, and my daughter's racing a boat in Ohio, and Charlie is pitching. And so Joe and I are going out to the lobby to watch it, and Charlie got pulled really quickly in the first game. And this is terrible parenting, Matt, but I remember thinking, I'm kind of glad I'm not there because I don't have it in me to soothe. It's the same way when my husband and my boys went to Kansas City to see the Buffalo Bills play and they lost there. And I thought, I'm so glad they're not here right now. I'm going to put on a movie and I don't have to like worry about everybody else's nervous systems. But That being said, it was a doubleheader. Charlie got brought back in and pitched 4 innings in the second game
There you
and
go.
closed it out. And so,
There you go.
and when I talked to him, he sounded great. He said, I could be better. And I said, well, we could all be better, buddy.
I mean, listen, baseball is a game of failure. Period. Full stop. I can't think of another sport where you can fail more and be more successful at the same time. I mean, if you look at, I mean, where can you actually be, at 30% and be called successful,
I know.
meaning you can have a 300 batting average and that's great. I mean, like the whole thing about pitching, I think is a completely different animal because that's the quarterback other than the catcher, but like that's the quarterback, that's the mental, that's the that's the start and the end of kind of the outcome of a game. If you have somebody that can't hit their spots and can't control the outcome of the game, doesn't have spin rate on their curveball or their breaking ball, like those things are going to change. But I will say that, baseball for us as a family, it's been like a massive life lesson in terms of like, there's going to be a lot of things that happen when you're on that field that are totally out of your control. Your teammate's going to drop a ball, ground ball's going to go under his legs. You may put the ball in the right spot and the guy's going to go down and get it and hit a home run. And that's just how it works. And I will say, you know, I can think of many, many stories of my son. But when he was in 8th grade, he started, we had a little talk. I'm like, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to play D1 baseball. It's like, do you know the amount of work that's required for this? Yes. Okay. Well, we're going to support you when we don't see that, we got to do other things. So, and he just kept doing it. It's, I think in life, if you believe in something strong enough, and you put forth the hard work, you can do anything. And I think that's a really big life lesson for our kids.
It is a beautiful life lesson, and we had the opportunity to watch Charlie play in Florida last week, and we took him to dinner one night, and I don't he started as a starter in high school, but now he's like the closer, which is a totally different mindset. Sometimes you come into a mess and you untangle it, and I wrote about it this week. I'll just send it to you. And I
Please
wrote,
do.
"Pressure is his playground." He
Hmm.
just everybody's always said that about Charlie. He knows how to slow the game down. And that translates, Matt, when we're in the house and everybody's hotted up, Charlie has always known how to slow it down. And he
That's
said this
amazing.
to us over dinner in Florida, just Joe and I with him. Some kid had gotten on base and he said, I told myself, I've been here before. This is nothing new. When you see your young adults amass skills and do something that you have no chance of doing, standing on a mound and delivering a pitch at whatever speed, it is wild, and it is
Totally.
just the most beautiful aspect of parenting that is completely unexpected, and it doesn't have to be baseball. It could be my son Jack just texted me yesterday. He made his own appointment for a haircut. He went and got it done. He calculated the tip. No triumph is too small in this parenting journey.
I mean, life is about those little wins because those do add up, and you're right. Listen, I mean, I definitely wanna get you back at some point because I think we could talk for hours about these topics and subjects. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to go ahead and finish up for this particular episode, but I just want you to know, Carrie, like, it is so great to meet you,
Mm.
and I'm so humbled by your story about your son Jack, about Charlie, about all of your kids, about Joe. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a part of this. Anything that you want to kind of end with, parting words, your website, anything before we go ahead and
You know,
let it on the recording?
Thank you so much for this was I could talk for hours with you. Keep an eye out for Marriage. I Love You for Now. My husband Joe titled that book. Very, very proud of that title. So I hope everybody sees a piece of themselves inside of our story. And it's just been a great time to be here.
Awesome. Carrie, thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I'm going to click the stop button in just a second, but just so everybody knows, by the way, this is episode 1 of season 2. This is episode 31. You're my first episode.
Wow.
So it's been, this has been over a year that I'd actually planned the podcast about 6 months before I launched. But thank you again for being here, part of season 2, episode 1 of season 2. Again, the Sober Cold Bear podcast is not a place to go if you want to get sober. There are things to do. You can go to AA meetings. You can get a sponsor. You can work the 12 steps. If you have to go to rehab because it's a good place to be. But it starts with the three little words and sayings as part of a saying, I need help. Just ask for help. Reach out to me, reach out to Carrie, a loved one, your best friend, your coworker. We're on Instagram. There's people everywhere that want to help you, that love you, but start with, I need help. And thanks again for stopping by in this corner of the world. Carrie, again, thank you for being here, and we will talk soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sometimes I feel like I want to fly without no wings. I elevate inside my mind, and sometimes I look inside